All right, y'all. Now I'm officially kick it off again. Take two. My name is Doris French. I'm super excited to co-host the Fort Worth HR Peg along with Susan Snipes. I am owner of the Benefit Boutique, a full-service woman-owned employee benefits brokerage. Super excited about that. Benefits is so much fun. Like I said, I wanted to be a teacher when I first grew up, and then I realized I didn't like kids. Around when I became a teenager and I had to babysit and stuff. So that quickly changed, and here I am in employee benefits years later. But I got to get out of the way because without further ado, if you guys are not connected with Jessica Winder, newly Winder, I love it. She just got married. And we found out, like I'm her husband, we found out that she was having twins as well. She has moved to Vegas. She is native Fort Worth, y'all. Do not hold that against her, okay? Do not. So this is a Fort Worth, Texas girl, okay, woman. And like I said, if you don't follow her, you need to follow her after today. I love her transparency, no pun intended, when she's speaking, her candor, her non-traditional ways of thinking about disrupting HR. And I was so excited she wanted to join us again this year. Jessica, I have made you co-host. So if you need to share your screen, this floor is yours. I'm getting out of the way because we all want to hear what you got to say and how you say it. I love her little isms and stuff. But okay, I'm going to be quiet.
I love it. Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. This is amazing. Yes, I am a Texas girl through and through. And as soon as I moved to Vegas, one of the things that I told my husband was that we're going to Texify this house. So we got a Texas flag. We got a Texas mat in the front yard. Like our neighbors are like, what is going on over here? Yes, I live in Vegas, but I am a Texas girl and you can't take it out of me. But yes, I got married in November. Apparently I got pregnant in December and I'm having twins. And so, yes, very excited about all that going on in the personal life. And then I'm an SVP of people for a company called Refine Labs. And we are a marketing agency out of Boston, actually. So the majority of my team is on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast, which means I just get up earlier and I get to get off work, early, which I kind of like. It doesn't bother me at all. But so my role is all things culture, benefits, anything to do with employee relations, people that would fall under me. And I have a team. So my team is made up of a talent advisor, basically an HR generalist. And then we just hired someone to do learning and development. So we are all over the place. We're a small startup, and I say small, we have around 150 employees all over the US and then some out of Canada. We are fully remote. We've never actually even had a physical office. Once a year, we all like meet up somewhere. Like last year, we met up in San Diego. Once a year, we'll have like a big event, but we are fully remote. So I want to preface that because I know a lot of times when I'm speaking about stuff, I know because when I lived in Fort Worth, ironically, I work for GM Financial. So I know that some of the things that we can do with this small amount of people is different than if you had thousands of employees. So I just want to acknowledge that before I even get started, because some of the things that we're doing would be very hard to do unless we were a startup and like a scrappy startup at that. So actually, when I was thinking about what I wanted to go over with you guys today, I thought about like making a separate presentation and like talking through everything. And then I thought, well, why don't I just show you guys like the real documents that I use, like the real documents, the real PowerPoints, like all the stuff that we actually use. And I actually went and like copied a deck that I have when we do our annual compensation and like took out people's names and all that good stuff. But just to show you how I go about doing this stuff. And I think there are levels to transparency. So if I could have a crystal ball and today decide how transparent we were going to be, I would post every single employee's salary. I would literally put it on the website and say, this is what every single person here makes. My CEO is not down for that. So we are not to that level of transparency. I think on a scale of like 1 to 10, and 10 is like post everything and everybody knows everything, we're probably at like a 7 because we do post the salaries for every single like job that we have. So we don't post people's names, but if you know what their job is and you go look at a job description, you know how much money they make here. So that's as far as we've gotten. As far as philosophy goes, my CEO and I are pretty lockstep when it comes to transparency. Like, I don't believe in doing interviews without people knowing exactly what the salary is going to be. So you already know, it will already be on the job description. It's super transparent. Even when we do promotions, we tell people that, like, this is how we will promote you, and this is the salary band that you would go into. So the aim is for us to just be as transparent as possible, because I feel like if not, as we know at this day and age, employees can talk about whatever they want to talk about. So if they want to share their salary, they are welcome to do so. And it should not be a shock. It shouldn't be a surprise. And I also, on the flip side, think it helps with equity, because if you can't hide what you're paying people, then it should be very clear that people are being paid fairly. So, oh, I just saw Susan. I just saw your comment. I will add that to my Netflix. I need all the Netflix now, because apparently I'm not really doing too much since, things are happening. So
sorry,
yeah.
It's unstable, not unstoppable. Wrong thing, but unstable.
Oh, it's all good.
It's hilarious because I support biotechs also. And yeah, we'll talk.
I love recommendations, so put those in the chat for sure. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And like I said, I went and pulled probably like 4 or 5 documents that I just want to walk you through. And at any time, if you have questions, feel free to like put them in the chat, and I can like say them out loud and answer your questions as I go. And like I said, everybody's at a different level of transparency. I am definitely one of those people that believe in just put it all out there, but that is not always feasible. And I know that for some companies, this would have never happened when I was at GM Financial, because we had thousands of employees and it just was never going to happen. So I realized that. So hold on, let me share my screen with you guys.
Okay, Jessica, we got a question already.
Let's do it.
We've got one already. So when you say that you post employees' salaries, do you post the actual salary or the range?
The actual salary. So we, like, for example, we're a marketing agency. So for example, some of our employees are copywriters, they're graphic designers, all that stuff. So it would say copywriter makes $85,000 when they come here. Now in the back end, obviously, and you'll see this in one of the documents I'm going to show you, because I'm going to show you like what we actually pay people. So some of them are in a range, but some of them are literally everyone that in that role makes this amount of money. So we do not put the employee's name, but we do put the role. So like I said, in theory, if you know what the role is, you definitely know what someone makes here.
Right. Thank you, Beth, for asking that.
Yeah. Okay, so can everybody see my screen? We're good? Yes? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is one of the documents that we put together a year ago, and it was our compensation philosophy. And basically the gist of it is like, we believe in pay equity, and we perform audits, and we want to make sure that everyone is paid justly. So when I started here almost 2 years ago, one of the first things that I did was I went and pulled every single person's salary and every demographic that I could find about them, because I wanted to understand kind of, it was a little bit of the Wild Wild West, like it's almost like before they had a people person and after they had a people person. So it was a little Wild Wild West in that there was no like real rhyme or reason. Like if you asked for more money in the interview process, you were paid more money, which, as we know, is not equity, because most people of color or women do not ask for more money. And so that created this thing where if you just asked, you would get the money, which is not right. So we X that immediately. Like, so if just because you ask for something doesn't mean you're going to get it. We're transparent, that means you should already know the salary up front. And that actually cut out a lot of things that were creating inequity, because people were we just said we don't have that policy anymore. Even if you ask if this is the salary that we have, then that is it. We're not going to negotiate. So we X'd out the whole, we're going to negotiate when we do offers. We made it very clear. This is, if the salary on the job description says 85, that's what you're going to get, and we're not going to negotiate, because when we do that, it just creates inequity. So this was one of the things that we wrote out around compensation and why we wanted to do it this way and how we were going to evaluate. So getting people salary adjustments versus, other things that we wanted to do. So that's the philosophy. And then I want to talk through the salary adjustment factors. So why we would adjust someone's salary, because this would come up as well, where people would say, well, they would basically say they they are not ready for promotion. However, they want an increase in their salary. And my pushback to that would be, well, why would I do that? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing above and beyond that I would give you more money, but not give you a promotion? Like, why would that happen? And so that's why we wrote this out, because we wanted it to be very clear of like why we would give adjustments and why we will not. So the main one is equity. I would say at this point, we have everyone where they need to be. 2 years ago, this was a major factor of why we were changing people's salaries, because I went through and I found out very clearly, if you were a woman in the same position as someone else, you were likely underpaid just because you did not ask for more money when you were originally hired. So it created this loop of you weren't getting more money when you came in the door. And then when we did promotions, you were still lower than somebody else in the same role. So for the first year, I got with the finance team, and that was something that we were very strongly doing, going back and doing equity adjustments and saying, you're in this role, another person's in the same role, you should be paid the same amount. So we did that for a whole year, and we had to, because of the amount of money that it was, to be quite honest, we had to like do it every quarter. So every quarter we would go through and say, okay, we're going to get this group. So if you're a copywriter, we're about to make everyone in copywriting equitable. If you're a graphic designer, we're about to do this whole group. And we did it that way, and everyone really appreciated it. And we actually told them we were doing this for equity. We did not hide that this was happening. There was one instance where one of our leaders was like, maybe we shouldn't tell them this happened. And no, I don't believe in that. So this is why it happened, and we're going to tell you the truth, and that we're going to try to fix it. And people were actually very receptive to that. And then the second part of this was retention. So when someone would leave, or we have people that have a great business impact to us. So for example, one of these positions was a creative director. If this creative director leaves, we are shot in the foot. Now, this was a year ago. We now have more than one creative director, but this was at the time where we had one person in this role. So if she would have left, we knew this would have a major business impact, because we would not be able to do the commercials or the social media or all the things that we were doing, because she was a pivotal part of that. Part of that was hiring somebody else so that we had somebody else like a backfill. But the second part of that is that we basically said if she ever came to us and said that she was going to leave, we would match whatever she wanted us to match. I will stop here and say that she was very well compensated, so that was not an issue. In so many words, we definitely gave her golden handcuffs that she would have to take a pay cut to leave us. And that was actually a business strategy from my CEO, that everyone that when he first started hiring, this before I started, his compensation mindset was to do golden handcuffs and to overpay people so that if they left, they would have to leave and take a pay cut, which most people are not willing to do. That is no longer our policy, because that is not sustainable. But when he started the company, I'll be transparent and say that is exactly what we did. We overpaid people so that they could not leave. Oh yeah, I see your comment, Susan, about the tenure related pay increases. That's often expected. Is there hard but necessary expectation to reset that has occurred? Oh yeah, and retention bonuses is another one. We have not done retention bonuses, but yeah, we definitely have done retention offers before specific roles. And then performance pay outside of the formal promotion process. Like I said, I am not a fan of this. This is something that we have, the leadership team and I have gone back and forth on this numerous times. My personal opinion is it just creates inequity, because why would we, if they're going above and beyond in performance, why would we not just promote them? And I want to say we have two different tracks. So we do have a leadership track, and we also have an individual contributor track. So if you can still make just as much money as a leader here, even if you don't want to lead, because we have a lot of people that don't want to necessarily be leaders. And so we decided, well, why would they not be able to grow in their career? So we created growth tracks. And one of them is a leadership growth track where you eventually get a team. And one of them is an individual growth track where you eventually become like a subject matter expert. And you are the one that we are going to for all things specific to, if you're a copywriter, you would become like the expert copywriter, or the designer, you would become an expert in that field. And you would lead projects, but you would not have to lead a team.
Okay, I've got to step in on this.
Yeah.
This is not my lane, right? Compensation, but that was just even for me as I'm building my own business and building my own teams, because I'm a leader. I think everybody wants to be a leader,
Mhm.
but that's not true.
No. Mm-mm.
And at the same time, just because you don't want to be a leader doesn't mean you don't want to grow. So you have that other track, the contributor track, because we do know that people will stay and they are looking for opportunity to grow. So that was just like a aha for me. I had to come in and say, wow, everybody does not want to lead people.
Mhm. And it's hard. And here's the thing, a lot of times people do lead people because that's the only way to move up. And they don't actually want to do it. And they're bad at it.
Right.
They don't want to do it. And so, yeah, but you're incentivizing them to be a leader because that's the only way they could move up.
Wow, that was huge. I just had to come off and come in and say, thank you. That's huge. Okay. I see Ashley came on camera. Ashley, did you have a question you wanted to ask real quick before Jessica continues? Okay, sorry, love. All right, I'm back in my corner.
No, you're fine. I love that. But yeah, the different tracks have made a substantial difference because we have employees that flat out said, I do not want to lead people for whatever reason that might be. And they could be whatever reason they want. But we also have had people who said, I don't want to lead. And then we are really big into training and development. They went through training and development and now they've decided, you know what, actually, I changed my mind. I do want to lead a team. And so they can go back and forth. You don't have to say, I want to be an individual contributor and you can never change your mind. You can never be a leader. Then no, you could go back if you want to. Perfect. Okay. So before I move on to the next document, or I believe the next one is like a slide deck. Any questions about this one? Comments? Anybody doing anything completely different? Oh, Susan, I see your comment about if they aren't performing, then they shouldn't be employed in the capacity. I 100% agree. You're being paid to do a job. So either you do it or you don't. I 100% agree. So I definitely think the promotion or them getting a raise outside of a promotion is not them not meeting expectations. They definitely must be meeting expectations or exceeding it to even be considered. But that definitely is something to think about. Okay, so next up, I am going to go through this slide deck. And this is actually a deck that we use when we onboard people to just make sure. Can you guys still see this in the slide deck?
It says loading.
Loading, okay. Let's see. And if not, I will just show it outside of like the slide deck. I'll show it.
Yeah, we can see it there. Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I will do it this way so that we can all just see it. Okay, so this is the slide deck that we use when we have new people. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because from the moment someone starts, we kind of like let them know very quickly, this is how it's going to be. This is what our culture is like, specifically when it comes to compensation. And so we have some very, I'd say progressive thought processes on how we think about like PTO, how we think about days off, giving people their birthdays off, all that good stuff, which feeds into our compensation model. So this is the content and we'll go through all of these. So we have summer Fridays is what we call them. So we haven't updated this one from last year, but yeah, so during the summer months, we have every other like Friday off. So we let people take the Friday off. Now, I precede this by saying that we are working towards having a 4-day work week. That is the ultimate plan for us. I don't think that's going to happen this year, if I'm being honest, but the plan is that we will eventually get to the point where we only work 4 days a week. That is my CEO's goal. He's made it a goal that we will be doing that by 2024. I don't think we're there yet because we are very client facing. So most of our employees are working with a client on like a commercial or their social media or whatever marketing they have hired us to do for them. And they are not off on Fridays. So this has been hard for us to get there, but we have transitioned into, as of right now, we have no meeting Fridays. So we don't have any internal meetings on Fridays. So Fridays are meant to be project days. If you are working on a project, you have things that you need to catch up on. That's what you're doing on Fridays. However, I'll be transparent and say some of our client-facing employees are definitely taking meetings with clients on Fridays because they have no choice. That's when the client said that they want to meet or when they're available, especially if like we're doing a new commercial. I never knew this before working at this company, but commercials and like when you have to shoot stuff is not up to us. It's up to the production team. So that is something that we're trying to transition into. I'm going to be very transparent and say it's been harder than I thought it would be. I thought we could just say, we just work Monday through Thursday and we're done. And it does not work that way. Like it is not happening smoothly, but this is what we're working towards. So no meeting Fridays is already in something that we do. And then during the summers, we get the Fridays off. Will I be transparent and say some of our employees are working on these Fridays? They definitely are if they are client facing and they have a project that's due. So we've gotten pushed.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what about if a certain percentage of the staff work Monday through Thursday, but then you had some work Tuesday through Friday, and then you can still have 5-day coverage, and a 3-day weekend is a 3-day weekend for me. Give me Friday. I'm good.
No, we definitely, that's something that I feel like before we actually go into like a fully like cut it, we're going to have to do some type of transition just like that. And we've talked about that because it would have to be some type of way where we could like switch back and forth or, you know what I mean? So we're still working through that, but it definitely is something that is on our list that we want to do by 2024 is everybody on that 4-day week. Which I will absolutely welcome.
I'm sure.
And then events, I won't go through events, but in a lot of detail. But like I said, since we are remote, events are really important to us. So we do have like a company offsite probably every twice a year, but the leadership team probably gets together 2 times a year as well outside of that. So our last like leadership meeting, we actually came to Austin. So I flew down to Austin, everybody from the leadership team flew down and we did strategic like 3 days going through everything. What are we doing for this quarter and all that good stuff. And then we lean a lot on like regional meetups. So for example, in Vegas, there are probably 5 of us. And so we meet up every time that we can. Ironically, the Austin has a lot of employees for us. And so like the Austin team meets up whenever they have the chance. So this is just something that we do outside of like the normal activities. And then let me see if I can keep going. And then birthdays, we give everybody their birthday off. This is meant to be like we see you, we appreciate you, take the day. The funny thing about this is that we have unlimited PTO. So technically they could take whatever day they want off, but they don't. So we've made it an initiative to say, take your birthday off. Like, and if you don't, want me or somebody on my team will reach out to you and be like, so what's going on? Why are you doing this? But it's the funny thing about unlimited PTO. The flip side of unlimited PTO is that people actually don't end up not taking it just because they're like, oh, well, it's unlimited, so I'll just take it when I need it. But then they don't actually take it. So we've actually had to institute like every quarter, I pull who has taken PTO and I send out messages like, hey, you should take a day off or you should schedule a vacation, because if not, people won't do it. So that's the funniest thing to me, because I can definitely tell you I take time off and I'm about to once I have these twins, take a lot of time off, but it's just funny that people don't actually take it. So that's been really interesting to me that we have this policy and employees and I won't say all of them because we definitely have people that take it, but some of them don't take it. And then flexible working guidelines. So like I said, we have a minimum. We want people to take at least a week off every 6 months, and that's the minimum. We have a no ask questions policy. So if you say that you need to be off, we don't ask you questions about why. Now, once it gets into you need to take time off for example, I'm about to go on FMLA on maternity leave. And so that's a different situation. But in general, we don't ask questions about why people are off. I think it's none of my business. And actually, when people tell me why they're off, I'm like, please stop. And then the flexible working arrangement, holidays, the no meeting Fridays, sick days. And this feeds directly into our compensation model because, like I said, we have unlimited PTO. So on the flip side, when someone does leave, we don't pay them out for PTO because it's unlimited. They don't have a set amount of days. But we have people that absolutely are taking more days than other people. So that's kind of a flip side of like how I'm monitoring it. Because not only am I pulling it every quarter for who hasn't taken days, I'm pulling it for who is taking a lot of days to like check in and what's going on and like, you know, get information from them as well. So it's two sides to that coin. And then referral bonuses. We definitely pay people for referrals. So if somebody refers someone, doesn't matter the role. So everyone from our executive assistant team to if they hire a leader, this is how much money they get. At first we had like these tiers of like, if it's a leader, you get 5,000. If it's this person, you get this, that. And we just decided to scrap all that and just say any referral, you get $2,500. Now, obviously, this does not apply to my team because we are the people recruiting, or anybody that's a VP and above, because you should be recruiting for the company anyway. But for everybody else, it does apply. And so we actually pay out quite a few referral bonuses. Actually, most of our recruitment comes from referrals.
All right, Jessica, I got to interrupt a little bit. We have a question from Lynn McCartney saying, what if you don't have a large staff to help cover with the absences? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we actually don't. I'll definitely say we are small. We do not have a large staff. Like, for example, when I go out on maternity leave, it will just be my HR generalist and probably my leader, who's my COO, covering for me. So we don't have a large staff. However, yeah, we've made it work. And part of that, though, is transparency and like having conversations. So when someone is out, we have a coverage plan. So the expectation is that before someone is out, unless they're sick or something tragic happens, that they have coverage before they even leave, specifically if they are client facing. So if you are working on a project for a client, it 100% needs to be covered before you are going out. So we recently, for example, had someone get married and she took 3 weeks off. And we were completely fine with that. She had coverage for those whole 3 weeks. She had it all planned out. She had a transition plan. She had all these things together before she ever went on leave. So it wasn't an issue. But I don't know of another company that I've been at that we would have approved that 3 weeks, but we did here. So we let her go out for 3 weeks for her honeymoon and all of that good stuff.
Thank you. We do have one other comment about the Fridays. Teresa also says that approach is no meetings on Fridays is working at her organization, and she feels like it's supporting the work-life balance and no catch up on weekends. So yeah, that's a good one. And Susan, I see your comment about the no ask PTO. We might be initially denied. I have yet to see us deny someone PTO, so we just don't. If someone asks to be out, we make a way for them to be out. Now, like I said, if it's some type of leave of absence, we've had people that go out for surgeries and stuff like that. That's more of a, like, we make sure we have a plan in place. But we have yet to ever say, no, you cannot take this PTO.
So that works, I guess, I think someone else already asked a question on this, like not having coverage and things like that, but you have a 3-shift call center or nursing facility, or like certain industries, it's a little harder, or line workers.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Where it directly, like your butt being in the seat directly impacts productivity and like money, versus the output being more conceptual. I don't know if like more creative kind of a thing. So
I agree. So this would not work, like I said in the beginning, this would not work for every company. Absolutely not. But for us, it definitely has worked. But if you were in a call center, or even, I mean, I had a previous HR job in retail, this would absolutely not work. Without a doubt, this would be abused 1000%, and it would not work.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of like flexible time away that's kind of like this. Like, we don't, like, if it's for something we need to know about, then it would be under a different policy. Like, you would say you needed it for sick leave, or you needed it for something else. But it's always kind of an honor system, because in a lot of states you can't even ask for doctor's notes anyways. So
Which I'm very anti-doctor's notes. I think that's
Yeah, I mean, there's
people like
no,
with children.
well, if it's, it's like if it's a leave entitlement, if they're entitled to it by law, then you shouldn't ask for doctor's notes because they don't have to go to the doctor to be sick. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Jessica, we switched to this model this year to unlimited PTO, quote unquote. And it's so weird not going in there and requesting time off, so to speak. And, to your point, I just put off off. And but to your point about the vacation side of it, my wife was asking me, hey, are we going to Florida this June? I'm like, well, it all depends on if I can get this, and this done. But beforehand, I'd be putting that damn request in no matter what. And now it's like, all right, I'm obligated for the business side of it, of getting my crap done
Yes.
before I go. And so it's just that mindset change.
Yeah. And to your point, Jason, I would say we have an expectation that you will have coverage for yourself. So I will not do it for you. My people team will not do it for you, that you will have coverage. And that has gone over well, and employees, like, they know that's the expectation. So when they come, like this individual, obviously we knew she's getting married. This is a big life event. And when she came to us with like, these are the 3 weeks that I'm going to be out, she, in that same meeting, said, and here is my coverage plan. We didn't have to ask her for it. Like, she knew the expectation is that you will find coverage, and that your team, you guys will figure it out, and you will let us know what's going to be. So it kind of changes the dynamic of like, it's not the people team's responsibility to find coverage for you.
Yep. And she's going to bust her butt the rest of the year because you allowed her that 3-week time period.
Absolutely.
It seems like, to me, there's kind of two sides of it. The first one is just the idea of letting people be adults. Obviously, there's people that come in and don't act that way, in which case that's why you're doing the slideshow right up front, to kind of make sure that people have those expectations going into it. And you can obviously counsel people as you need to, but I love this idea that all of this is included. I'm taking many screenshots and notes for our company. So thank you for sharing, Jessica.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the bottom line is that when I think of my role as an SVP of people, is that I truly want to treat people like adults. So if this doesn't work for you, or if you abuse the system, or, you know what I mean, then you won't work here. You know what I mean? Like, I have a very like a low tolerance for like, if this can't work for you, or if this is not the environment that's right for you, respect that. And like, we can move on. But I have people say, well, what if people abuse the system? Why would they work here? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of policies are written for the 1% of people that mess it up for the 99% that know how to act. So that comes up a lot. And then we have a company-wide minimum salary. So this happened probably a year and a half ago. Our CEO basically said, we sat down and did a lot of research and decided we want to have a minimum salary, that every single person that works here makes this amount of money. It doesn't matter what their job title is. Now, preface this by saying that the majority of our team are experts in what they do. Like, they're not going on, these commercials or doing all these marketing campaigns and not being an expert. So one of the things that we don't have that I'm trying to build right now is like the entry level roles. Most of our roles are expert level because we need you to come in and know how to do production, know how to do all these things in the background. So I want to preface this by saying that, because a lot of times the pushback I get from people is like, well, you can't do that if they're junior level. And that might be true. We don't have that. You know what I mean? So that is where this comes in. So we did a $75,000 minimum salary. So no matter who you are or what you do here, you make at least $75,000. People ask me that question. The first question people say is, does this apply to like your executive assistants and all of that stuff? It absolutely does. So that is the magic number for us. And we got this number from doing a lot of research on like cost of living. Because like I said, we have people all over the US and Canada. So this is our minimum salary. So no one that works at Refined Labs makes less than $75,000 a year. And that is the number that our CEO is very adamant about, because for most places, if you make that much, you can have a standard of living that, you can get by, you have your basic needs met, and you can do whatever you need to do. So that was a big one. This had a major impact on our employer brand. And when we do recruitment, I will say we actually don't really have to recruit. Like right now we are looking for a new graphic designer, and we posted the job and, probably had 600 applicants, and 2 days. So this policy has absolutely helped us get the people that we want to come work here. But the flip side of this is that it definitely, it hit our bottom line. We, when we rolled this out, we had several people that we had to move up, including all of our executive assistants. There were people on our production team, like our videographers, all of those people, probably about 10% of our employees, we had to move up. Now, some of them it was like maybe like a $5,000 move up, but so some of them, it was a pretty good chunk, $15,000 to $20,000 that we increased their salary. And they didn't have to do anything. This is another question I normally get of like, well, what did they have to do to get that money? Nothing. We said that this is the minimum. And so everyone that was below that number, we brought them up to that number. And this is still in place today. So every single person here makes this amount of money as a minimum. And then we go up from there.
Jessica, can you speak a little bit more to when you were saying now you're trying to figure out entry level? Because you spoke on this topic. This was the big topic you spoke on when you were with us last year. So it's kind of good. This is like a recap. I didn't even think, not a recap, but a follow-up. Like 9 months later, now what?
So 9 months later, we're still doing it. It's still in effect. It's still going strong. We have hired some, like the most entry person, I believe we just hired was on our marketing team, and same thing. She came in at $75,000. She was shocked. It was pretty funny to do her interview when we told her this, because she was like, what? Like, and we're like, yeah, this is the company minimum. So even if you are junior level and she has no experience, this is her first job, this is the amount of money that you will make. So yeah, it's still going strong. We have not wavered at all on this.
Right. I have a hand up, Beth Watson. Well, I just want to say before Beth speaks, y'all golden handcuffs, I think, are platinum.
I agree, Darius. Jessica, thank you for this presentation. You're giving us all a lot to think about. One of the questions I had with this minimum, which is certainly commendable, do you still do salary surveys and figure out what an appropriate salary would be for an employee? And let's say, since you implemented this last year, do you have people who have remained at 70,000 because they actually, the market bears that that's still a great salary for them, or do they get periodic increases, or what do you foresee for the coming year or two with that?
Yes. So great question. So we absolutely have some people that are still at this number because basically we're overpaying them. And if we were to compare them to market research, which goes to my point earlier about the golden handcuffs of like overpaying some people, knowing that if they leave, they would have to take a pay cut. So they will not leave. So yes, we still do an annual, and this is in partnership with me and my CFO, go through and do like market research on what, if you were in the market specific regions, because we are in the US and Canada, like what would you make? And we do have some people that the way that we've highlighted it is putting them in orange, where we know like if someone is in orange, we are definitely overpaying them because they anywhere else would be below this minimum that we have decided that we wanted to give them. And so we kept those people there. Mind you, that is subject to change if they move to a new role or if something happens or the market change. But yeah, we definitely, I'd say we have a good 10 people. Yeah, a good 10 people out of our like 125 that 100%, if they went somewhere else, would not make this money. Perfect. Okay. So next thing I want to talk about is parental leave. This is something that I think is our new frontier of being worked on. I don't think this is enough. Now, mind you, this now applies to me, so that's probably why I think that. But outside of that, we want to get to a point where we are offering all of our employees 12 weeks and then eventually get to much more than that. I've put it in like my goals for us to eventually get to 16 weeks, but this is where we are right now. So non-birthing parents get 4 weeks. And if I'm being honest, we just had someone go out on leave, and he had some circumstances go on with the birth of his baby, and he was actually out for 6 weeks. And because we have unlimited PTO, we basically just said, okay, 4 weeks of this is parental leave, and then we're just going to pay you for 2 weeks because you need the time, because his his child was in the NICU. And so we made accommodations for him. And then birthing parents get 12 weeks. And so fully paid. We normally have a service that we utilize called Parently, and they do like the transition plans and like help these people come back to work, and like, do you need to come back and work part-time, or do you need to come back full-time, and all that good stuff. So we work that out. But this is definitely an area of focus for me that I feel like, you know, we've done the minimum salary, we've done the unlimited PTO, we've done all these things. This is something that is where we need to get better. So I would point that out when I show people this slide, is that this is not where it needs to be. It should be 12 weeks for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're birthing or not birthing. So that's something that I aim to get to, hopefully by next year. That's the ultimate goal. But I always
Jessica, how does that differ with the Canadian employees and benefits with maternity leave?
Yeah, so our Canadian employees, for us specifically, are contractors. So we basically have them follow the same policy, but if we were employing them as employees, we would follow, you know, the legal guidelines for them, which would be much longer.
Good deal. Yeah, I heard there's some differences, and I didn't know if you had to deal with that, but circumnavigating that makes sense.
Yeah. And then I saw someone put it in the chat. Yes. Thank you, Megan. It's called Parently, and they do basically parental prep for people. So they prep you before you go out on leave and make sure you have a coverage plan. And then they help prep you for when you go back or when you come back. And we have found that it has been an amazing help for all of the parents. And it's ironic because we are a young company. So our average age employee here is 30. So we are in the middle of a little bit of a baby boom. Myself included in this. I think we probably have about 7 babies on the way. Last year, I think we had 6 babies that were born. So, you know, it's definitely a thing that is important to us. And so before I move on from this slide deck, any questions about this? And then I will move on to, I think the next one is about promotions.
I don't see anything in the chat, so.
Okay, well, I'll keep it moving. All right, I'll zoom in on this so you guys can actually see it. Okay, so this one is the procedures, because when I started, we would get into these debates about like, well, do we need to make this person interview for this role, or is this a promotion? And this is like an ongoing conversation of like, is it a true promotion, or do they need to interview? And so we wrote out these guidelines of what requires an interview, like an internal interview process, and what is just you are getting promoted into a role. And so one of the things that we were very adamant about is if you are moving into a new role, you need to be interviewed for it. For example, you're going from like one team to the next. So you're not going to go from the creative team to the demand team and not have an interview process. And if you're going to be going into a leadership role, you need to be in an interview process. So these are the things that we decided, and it actually has worked out really well, because I feel like a lot of times, specifically when it comes to leadership roles, to my earlier point, some people don't want to be a leader, but they feel like that's what they need to do. So this is also why we created these tracks, because we started doing interviews with people and we would ask them, why do you want this role? And they would say, well, I want to make more money. And we'd be like, but you don't actually want to manage people. And they, no. So, okay, so this isn't going to work. So this is part of the information that we use to make those individual success plans, because we were figuring it out very quickly that people were interviewing for leadership roles just because they wanted to move up. So we X that, and now people don't have to do that if they don't want to do it. And then the interviews are not required if it's through our normal, we have quarterly performance reviews, and we do 9 boxes. So, and we do promotions based off of that information. And so we don't make people interview if they're getting promoted from like, our DDG is a director of demand gen. So from like that role to a senior level role, it's a promotion. We don't make them interview for that role. And then these are kind of written out to help with like, help our leaders understand what makes someone ready. So the individual contributor promotion readiness. So giving them like, this is what it would look like if you think someone is ready. It's not just, they did a great project this one, in the last 2 weeks. And so now they deserve to be promoted. Like, what have we actually shown? And I am a stickler for the documentation. My team will tell you this. If it is not written down, if it is not in a performance review, you will get a lot of pushback from me. This comes up a lot when we do talent reviews, because we do a 9 box, and I'm sure most of you know what a 9 box is, but we put people in these like, you're a star, you're a high performer, you're high potential. And we do it that way because it almost is a forced ranking. So we know where people stand. and we make it a calibration session. So there is no one person that is making decisions about someone's promotion. So for example, even on my team, I recently promoted my HR generalist to a senior level. I had to go to a calibration session and explain why she should be promoted to the rest of my peers, and they were able to give their input. And so I think that's really, really good when we talk about equity, that not one person is making the decisions on someone's future, if they're ready or not. It is the whole leadership team. Now, our leadership team, there are 7 of us. So we do the calibration session together. So if someone's getting anyone from any department, so let's say if you're in the finance department, you're getting promoted, or we would make you then come, our CFO is going to be the one coming to the leadership team and saying why. We're going to ask questions, we're going to calibrate, we're going to understand why this person needs to be promoted. And then we actually vote, like, do we think so? Yes or no? And so it's not one person, because that would come up before for me in previous organizations where they'd say, well, this one person just doesn't like me, or it's just not working out, and this is why I'm not getting promoted. Here, that's not the case, because everyone knows that the entire leadership team are the people that are making the decision. And that has taken out a lot of the back and forth and hearsay, and it's not fair, because we're all getting to give our input about it. I don't have any handouts, but I absolutely have no issue sending out these documents if you guys want them. No problem. And then signs of a management promotion readiness. So if someone's ready to lead other people, this is a really, really big one, because I think it's one thing to say you want to be an expert in something. So you want to go the expert track. That's amazing. That's great. But to say that you are going to lead a team, you need to be ready. Because everybody here that has somebody reporting to them knows it is not as easy as it looks. And so making sure that they know the signs, and I actually have another document that has way more information. This one is supposed to be just an overview, but making sure that people are ready when they say that they want to lead the team, and what does that actually look like. And we make the leader, when they send someone for a promotion, there's a document that they fill out, and they list out signs that this person is ready to be a leader. And it needs to be very detailed. So if someone cannot articulate why the person on their team is ready to be a leader with demonstrated examples, then they will not be approved. I can tell you that right now. Like, we've had that come up where the person's like, well, they're ready. They've been here, they've been here 2 years. I don't care how long they've been here. If they have not shown that they can be a leader, they will not get promoted. So the whole, they've been here, so they get promoted. I X that out pretty quickly. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm looking at the comments about employees and their FSA cards and all of that. Yeah, that's a really good one. Okay. Any questions about this document? And like I said, I am happy to send this out to you guys. I'll literally just download all this stuff into a PDF and send it out.
Okay. You can send it to me, Jessica, directly if that'll make it easier.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. That's completely fine.
Okay. And I have the registration list, so I'll just send it to everyone that attended, and those that didn't are not going to.
I love that. Okay. In the last couple of minutes, and I'll leave some time for questions or comments and stuff at the end, but the last thing I wanted to do was show you guys how we do the compensation review. And obviously I took out everybody's name, so like Jane Doe, all that stuff, and how it looks when we go through this. And normally the process is that I go through this with my CFO. So we would go through and pull every single employee, pull what they make, all that good stuff. And the thing that has happened here recently is we've had I call it like compensation creep. Like, the compensation has been slowly creeping up because of the market, and more employees that or candidates that decide like this is, what they need to make compared to what other companies are paying. And so what happened for this group, the senior graphic designers, is that we realized we had 2 people that were not where they needed to be. Part of it was that these 2 people joined early on and have just stayed where they were. And then we've had a bunch of people join here recently that we hired at 100K or higher, depending on where they were located. And so we went through and said, okay, well, we have to make this is what we would call like an equity adjustment. We made adjustments to these people, and we told them, May 1st, this is your new salary. Now, when we did this, we also this is the band. So it's not outside of the band. We actually have now changed the band from like 90 to 105. However, that was not when I started probably the band, we were hiring people at 85. So it was probably 85 to 100. And now the band is expanded and gone upward. So this is just an example of how we would do it, is pull every single person and look, and we're comparing this to market data. So this is definitely in line. Now I will say these two people that are at 105 are in the golden handcuffs. They are experts. They definitely have the most tenure and the most knowledge. And both of them have been doing graphic design for like 20 years. So that is why we did what we did there. But this is how we would do it when we look at, does someone need to be paid differently? And we go through this for every single role. Now, obviously I didn't put on here I didn't put like the HR team and stuff on here because it was just an example, but this is how we would do it for our graphic designers, our copywriters. An ACD is an associate creative director. We would do the same thing for them. So one by one, we would go through and look at every single person. Are they in the band? And these people are all within the band. And then this also helps me when I'm looking at recruitment, because for example, I know now that to get a senior graphic designer, it's probably going to cost us $100,000. So on the job descriptions, I write the salary is $100,000 so that we're all clear. So, you know what I mean? So it helps on the flip side, because when we look at what are we actually paying people versus what do we say the range is, this is what we can look at and see what are we actually having to pay people to get them in the door. So that's the copywriters, the graphic designers. Like I said, that ACD. So to my earlier point, at one point when I first started, we only had one art director, which made her a very a high asset to us, because if she left, we were screwed. And so, yeah, part of that is hiring more. So we got more art directors. So now we have coverage if something happens, but they are all paid the same. Yeah, for them, this is 100% a golden handcuff situation. If they left, they would absolutely have to pay a pay cut. Like, no doubt about it. If I went and looked at the market, we're probably overpaying them by $20,000 easy.
All right, we have a question.
Yeah, I'm like, part of that is to make sure they can't leave.
Right, those platinum handcuffs. Okay. So Megan, I don't know if this answered your question, but because Megan asked, how would you manage a position where there's only one, such as your spot or your other HR person? Yeah, so that one I'm comparing through like market research. So to your point, absolutely. So we have this like with my team and even with our finance team. So with our finance team, we have a CFO and a VP of finance. And with my team, we have me, an SVP of people, and my people ops person. And yeah, we're comparing ourselves via like the market because we don't have anybody else to compare ourselves to, since it's only one of us. So I actually think we have about probably 10 or 11 people that are in this situation where there's only one of them in the role. Most of them happen to be in leadership. So yeah, that's more of like a market comparison. But if I'm being honest, we have overpaid those people too. Like to keep them here. That's what I was thinking. Golden hand market, whatever the market is, plus some handcuffs. Yeah. Okay. And it's funny because when I interviewed here, I asked the CEO, this is very funny, but I asked him like, oh, what's your compensation model? And he flat out was like, oh, I just pay people so they can't leave. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's different. Like, oh, people actually do that? Like I've heard that HR never lands. Right. But yeah, it's a real thing. Susan, I agree. I would be happy to take overpayment. You can golden handcuff me and I will stay. Perfect. Okay, so that is all I wanted to show you guys. Like I said, these are all just us making sure that we were paying people in range. And if not, we were correcting it. Yeah, HR never land, you know, the land of mythical creatures of like, you overpay people and people just do what they say and they don't lie. And, you know, we all want to be there one day, but yes. So I will stop sharing my screen and then just like open it up to questions, comments, anything. Like I said, I'm happy to send out all these documents. So I'll download them and send them as soon as this is done, actually, so I don't forget, because pregnancy fog is a real thing. If I do not do it immediately, it will not happen. So I will get that done today, but I just want to open it up last couple of minutes. Any questions, comments, I'm happy to share.
Jessica, I'll ask since someone else is asking. So I kind of work for an organization that is a little bit smaller and has a little more flexibility to, I think, go in some of these directions. But they come from a very old school mentality. And so I know one of the big things, especially with your spreadsheet, not having that employee 10 years of experience on there. And I know that's going to be a huge sticking point. I was just curious if you had any kind of advice in terms of when it comes to pay, including all of that in there.
Yeah. So I do have a separate document that does have like basically everything. I basically told my HR journalist, go get everything you can find on someone. Okay. I want every demographic piece that we can find and put it in this document. So we do have a separate one that has like, how long have they been here? What have their performance reviews been? If we put them in the 9 box over the last 2 years, what were they? So it has everything. And that's the document I normally use when I'm in the leadership meetings, because it solidifies, and most of the time, what you're going to find is that everyone knows who's doing a good job. Like I have found that, like they know, it's very visible. You don't have to like argue about it. They have seen it. They understand it. It's the people that are on the cusp of they're doing enough. They're not doing too much, but they're doing enough that's when you get into the debate. So anytime we have a talent review, it's those people that we're debating. The people that are like oh yeah, all day, we know they're going above and beyond. Those are not even the people that we really talk about, because we know, we all agree. So the people that are on the cusp are the ones that you need that data for, I feel like, because you need to be able to show the whole picture. Because what ends up happening, and we know, is recency bias of like, they recently did this, so they deserve it. When, what were they doing 6 months ago? So I actually am an advocate. Like if you're trying to like push this across the finish line, the more data you have, the better off you're going to be.
Okay. And I guess that also, if you show that, okay, well, all these women are on the low end, or I guess that also kind of answers that question as far as when we can look and see trends.
Oh yeah, especially when you're talking about equity, if you can show, like for example, in the document I just showed you were the 2 people, both of those happen to be women of color. So it just happened to be. So without a doubt, we were like, we need to make this right. And part of it is that I went back and looked at their interview notes, and they did not ask for more money in the beginning, whereas other people did. And that was the only reason that they were not at the same level.
Jessica, most of your positions are remote. So how do you take in consideration location, like for California versus Oklahoma, if you have 2 candidates? How do you compare apple to apples with, hey, you have your minimum 75, but this person in Cali probably needs 85 to make this work versus, all right, 75 in Oklahoma, and probably same person. So how do you take that in consideration when you're evaluating?
So this is going to be controversial, but we don't do location-based pay at all. So if the role says 100,000, if you're in Cali or if you're in the middle of nowhere, you're getting $100,000.
Okay.
And I mean, that has been controversial for us, I'll be honest. Like that has definitely come up with people, with candidates that we find in California. It has been, I would say that's actually probably why we don't have a lot of people in California, is because they like, it doesn't work. The math, it doesn't work out. Yeah. But yeah.
What do you mean when you say controversy, Jessica? Because I'm thinking that's perfect. You're going to get the right candidate regardless of where they live.
I agree. And that's part of the reason that we do it, is because it's like, it doesn't matter, because we have people that move. So for example, I moved from Texas to Las Vegas and nothing happened to my salary. You know what I mean? Right. Like it should say the same. But for some people, like we have had people that moved from like an Oklahoma to a California, and they're like, I want more money. Like, no.
Okay.
Like
they might need to get a
job.
New job.
Yeah, do the same job. Like, no. So if you move back,
Because conversely, they could move to a cheaper area and do that job and then be getting more money.
West Virginia is lovely. Go to West Virginia.
Exactly. Oh, go to Oklahoma City. Okay. But no, we've had people do the opposite too, and we didn't change their salary. You know what I mean? So we've just taken the stance of like, no, this is what it is. And wherever you live, if you move, we have some people, we actually have one employee who is like nomadic, and he like travels and has an RV and does whatever he wants to do. So kudos, go live wherever you want, but we're not going to pay you differently.
Well, guys, I hate to end all the fun, but we're at 12:59, and I've got to obviously respect everyone's time. And just for my own personal selfish motives, I want to make sure we get a selfie for LinkedIn.
Good. And I just put my
My jazz hands ready.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get your
I
jazz
like-
hands ready, Megan. So let me get my little snipper here. If you can come off camera, no pressure. But let's say on 3, we show everybody how much fun we've had and how much knowledge we got from Jessica. 1, 2, 3.
I love that. That was perfect. I should have done this too. Yeah.
That came off. Came on camera. Yeah. All right, guys. So I will for only the one. Wait, let me stop the recording. For those that are here in